From an early age, men have been indoctrinated with a lie disguised as honor. Treat her like a queen, and you will be loved like a king. It sounds fair, romantic, almost noble. But Schopenhauer had already warned about the dangers of idealizing. Women, when you place someone on a pedestal, you inevitably kneel before them. And once you kneel, you lose the game. The so-called queen doesn't look at you with admiration. She looks down on you as a predictable, submissive, domesticated servant. This is the emotional prison many men live in today. They believe that the more love, attention, and devotion they give, the more they will be valued. But what do they receive? Coldness, disdain, mysterious rejections in favor of men who offer far less. Why? Because the pedestal doesn't elevate the woman, it isolates the man. He disconnects from himself, suppresses his instincts, abandons his strength, all in the name of a platonic love that only works in fairy tales. And even in those, the prince always has to slay the dragon before kissing the princess. Today, there's not even a dragon, just selfies, DMs, and shattered expectations. And the cruelest part? When he finally realizes he did everything right and still got rejected, the pain turns into anger. Not at the woman, but at himself. He senses something is wrong but doesn't know what. The harsh truth is, it wasn't the world that lied to him. It was the script he followed without questioning. And the cost of that emotional obedience is high, because a woman doesn't want a man who erases himself for her. She wants someone with presence, someone who brings risk, someone who doesn't place her on an altar but challenges her to be worthy of him. In the next few minutes, you'll understand why the more you try to be the perfect guy, the more she loses respect for you. Not because she's cruel, but because she's biologically wired to seek something the nice guy doesn't offer. Get ready to discover how this invisible dynamic sabotages your relationships and how to flip the script before it destroys your self-worth. There's a certain type of man who believes the key to a woman's heart lies in total surrender. Flowers for no reason, constant messages, fixing problems that aren't even his. He bends over backward to be the most present, the most caring, the most devoted. But instead of gratitude, he gets silence. Instead of affection, coldness. And, worst of all, instead of love, rejection. Schopenhauer would say that blind desire for approval turns a man into a puppet. And no woman wants to lie down with someone who's lost the strings to his own dignity. What many don't understand is the nice guy effect, the illusion. That being good guarantees love. But there's a vast difference between authentic kindness and disguised submission. A woman can feel when your kindness comes from strength and when it comes from neediness. And when she realizes you're trying to buy her with favors and niceness, something inside her dies. Respect evaporates. Desire fades. Because deep down, she doesn't want an emotional provider. She wants someone who knows who he is, with or without her. The anger many men feel when they hear this is valid. But I did everything right, they scream inside. Exactly, you did everything right and to be discarded. Because the emotional game doesn't reward the one who gives the most, but the one who stands his ground. And here begins the paradox. The man who erases himself trying to please is the very one who loses what he wanted most, her desire. And that contrast between effort and rejection is what causes the deepest pain. A pain many men carry in silence. In the next few minutes, you'll begin to see what truly activates female desire. And no, it's not safety, stability, or constant protection. What she wants is not adoration, it's emotion. And what we're about to reveal may seem counterintuitive, even unfair, but that's precisely why it works. Get ready to unlearn everything you were taught about love and become the kind of man she actually desires, even if she never admits it out loud. If adoration were enough to keep a woman interested, the man who does everything for her would never be replaced. But reality screams something different. The one who offers her the world is often left for the one who offers almost nothing, except strong presence, unpredictability, and a slight touch of danger. This isn't female cruelty, it's emotional, biology. And as Schopenhauer once said, desire does not bow to reason. It obeys the primitive instincts of the will. She doesn't want a pedestal. She wants emotional adrenaline, A man who stirs her, who disrupts her control and challenges her to feel more than just comfort. Because while stability is important, it's not an aphrodisiac. Lust is born in friction, in tension, in not knowing what comes next. And this doesn't mean being toxic. It means being real, mysterious, whole within yourself. A man who doesn't dismantle himself to please. The nice guy's biggest mistake is confusing affection with attraction. He brings flowers when she craved intensity. He sends long messages when she wanted silence and solid presence, because deep down a woman wants to be touched where words don't reach, in the emotion that shakes her ground, not in predictable kindness that makes her yawn. When everything is handed to her on a silver platter, there's no game left. And without the game, there's no fascination. But this revelation is just the beginning. You're about to understand why the kind of man she chases is often the one who isn't trying to win her, the emotional outlaw. What does he have that you don't? What does he do that gets under her skin so deeply? Get ready, because the answer might forever change how you see the dynamic between attraction and masculine presence. It's a frustrating paradox. While you're trying your best to be the ideal partner, she's lost in thoughts about someone who barely replies to her messages. That emotional vagabond, unpredictable and distant, doesn't have to try at all. Yet he dominates her mind. Why? Because he activates something deep and primal that defies logic. The instinct of challenge, the unconscious need to conquer the unattainable. Schopenhauer said, "We are slaves to the will, a blind and irrational force that drives our most intense desires." When a woman encounters someone who doesn't idolize her but instead presents himself as a mystery, her brain goes on alert. Her reward circuits light up, tied to uncertainty, novelty, and challenge. Dopamine spikes, emotions boil. The vagabond becomes an emotional psychological drug. She doesn't chase him because she's foolish. She chases him because her brain is craving emotional stimulation. And what you offer, predictability, constant attention, affection without mystery, triggers the opposite. Boredom. The nice guy is too safe to be exciting. The other one, even without offering anything tangible, offers a dance with the unknown. And the unknown in female psychology often equals desire. The cruelest part of this equation is that she herself doesn't understand this process. She leaves you saying, "Something was missing," or "You were too perfect." But the truth is you weren't the challenge. And right now she's testing another man, without even knowing this is all part of an ancestral emotional code. And yes, you can learn to decode it. In the next moment, we'll expose why you're constantly being tested, and how most men fail without even realizing there was a test. She smiles, compliments you, even says she loves you. But subtly, almost invisibly, she's testing your posture, your boundaries, your inner strength. These aren't direct questions or obvious demands. They're small behaviors she uses to measure whether you bend or stand firm. The most brutal part: most men don't even realize they're being tested, and they fail without ever knowing it. Schopenhauer claimed that human beings are driven by unconscious impulses, and in the realm of love, this becomes even more apparent. When a woman provokes jealousy, challenges your opinion, ignores a message, or treats you with indifference, she's not just being difficult or emotionally unstable. She is unconsciously triggering your emotional core to find out, is he a man who leads, or one I can dominate? And if the answer is the latter, the desire dies right there. The problem lies in how the man responds. The nice guy apologizes, lowers his head, gives in, tries to please in order to avoid conflict, and fails the test without even realizing it. He believes he's being mature, kind, a good partner. But in the invisible field of attraction, he's simply losing value. Every time he shows emotional weakness, she feels, "I'm stronger than him." And for a woman, desiring a man she can dominate is like trying to start a fire with wet wood. The first step to flipping this dynamic is awareness. To understand that not every smile means approval, and not every problem is random. It's the invisible dance of emotional power. If you don't learn to play, you'll be played. But when you begin to recognize the tests, you start to respond with presence and authority. and that's when she starts to respect you. In the next step, we'll dive into this hidden code of attraction and reveal why emotional damage and mystery hold such deep feminine appeal. Schopenhauer once said, "The more desire is hidden, the more it grows." And when it comes to female attraction, this logic applies with striking precision. Women, often unconsciously, are drawn to what they cannot control, to the man who remains a mystery, who stirs emotion without surrendering control. He's not trying to be cruel. He just lives with an emotional center that doesn't revolve around her. And that is magnetic. While the average man strives to be clear, predictable, and stable, believing that this makes him more trustworthy, he ends up revealing everything about himself too soon. The result? She loses interest, not because he's a bad match, but because he becomes emotionally decipherable. And female desire is born from mystery, from emotional unpredictability, from that subtle tension between he wants me, but doesn't need me. This hidden code of attraction, damage, and mystery works at deep levels of the reptilian brain. Neurologically, the female brain responds with dopamine in the face of uncertainty. That's why the guy who disappears, who vanishes for days, who holds emotional control, paradoxically becomes more desired. She chases him not because he's better, but because her brain is conditioned to pursue what isn't handed to her on a silver platter. This is not a call to manipulation or cruelty. It's a call to self-sufficiency and grounded presence. The truly attractive man is the one who doesn't give himself away completely. He shares, but doesn't submit. He cares, but never erases himself. And while the nice guy offers everything and gets discarded, the man with mystery and solid presence remains desired. In the next section, we'll expose an uncomfortable truth: why, in her eyes, being a nice guy is the same as being weak. Schopenhauer already noted that excessive kindness can be a subtle form of egoism, a desperate desire for approval disguised as virtue. And when a man positions himself as too nice, he believes he's winning her love. But in a woman's eyes, it comes off as submission, lack of backbone, and absence of real masculine energy. It's hard to hear, but that's where the turning point lies. The modern woman doesn't want a man who says yes to everything, who's always available, who never takes a stand. That kind of man, even with good intentions, unconsciously signals that he's willing to erase himself, just to be accepted. And what happens? She sees him as predictable, emotionally needy, and emotionally weak. That kills sexual tension, extinguishes desire, and turns the partner into a friend, a brother, or worse, an emotional burden. This realization is silent. The woman doesn't say, "You're being weak." She just starts pulling away, losing respect, admiring a different kind of man. The one who sets boundaries, values himself, and above all isn't afraid to displease when necessary. That man doesn't need to prove anything, he simply is. And because of that, he becomes desired, respected, unforgettable. If you recognized yourself in this pattern, it's not the end, it's the awakening. The path out of this cycle begins with a simple act. Stop seeking external validation and start embodying inner presence. In the next section, we'll deconstruct the image of the queen and reveal why the woman who demands a throne doesn't want a servant. She wants to be challenged by someone who is, in truth, a king. The image of a woman who presents herself as a queen is seductive. She demands respect, wants to be valued, claims to know her worth. And the man, convinced he's standing before a rare jewel, kneels and hands over the crown under the illusion that he will be loved for his devotion. But Schopenhauer would say that when you idealize someone, you don't truly love them. You love the image you've created, and that image comes at a high price, because deep down this queen doesn't want a throne. She wants a mirror, someone who reflects her true self, not through flattery, but with firmness. She tests, provokes, and pushes limits not because she wants to be served, but because she's looking for someone who won't bend. A true king doesn't kneel to keep the peace. He commands respect simply by being, and that's what excites her, what activates her, what makes her stay. That's why so many nice guys, man, who did everything to please, ended up left behind by someone who wouldn't bend. The false queen wants to feel she's facing someone who can say no without fear, someone who doesn't need approval, someone who isn't there to fill an emotional void, but to share a journey with authority and balance. And when she finds that, she stops testing. That's the moment the dynamic changes. When the man assumes his true posture and abandons the role of emotional servant, the balance is restored. In the next step, we will explore one of the most painful and most liberating truths. You become replaceable the exact moment you forget your value. The truth many men take too long to face is simple and cruel. The more you erase yourself to please, the more she realizes she can replace you. Not because she's cruel, but because human nature, as Schopenhauer wisely noted, values what isn't easily given. What is overly accessible loses its shine. And in the emotional realm, this effect intensifies. Think about how many men gave their all, offered unconditional love, sacrificed themselves, only to be replaced by someone who barely tried. The pain of that exchange is not only in rejection, but in the sense of injustice. And this injustice comes from the false belief that love must be proven through sacrifice, when in reality, the one who sacrifices too much is seen as weak. And weakness, unfortunately, does not spark desire, only compassion. And compassion doesn't sustain passion. A man who doesn't value himself sends a silent message: I accept crumbs. And those who accept crumbs are not worthy of the feast. This is where the cycle of frustration begins. The more you try to prove your worth through total surrender, the more she senses you lack your own value. And as a consequence, she looks elsewhere for what you yourself have lost sight of: your presence, your essence, your center. But this can change. There is a way back to the center of your masculinity, and it all begins by breaking the emotional servant pattern. In the next part, we'll talk about how to stop acting like someone who's emotionally kneeling, and how to start standing up. Every man who has ever felt rejected for giving too much deep down knows this. The problem wasn't love, but the lack of boundaries. Stopping being an emotional servant doesn't mean becoming a jerk. It means relearning how to stand with dignity. As Schopenhauer said, mismanaged compassion is a form of self-destruction. The key is to transform that compassion into inner strength, not submission. The first step is simple but powerful. Stop reacting to every emotional signal from her. When you become predictable, she stops respecting you. When you immediately respond to every test, request, or emotional manipulation, you confirm that you are always available. And a man who is always available is read as emotionally weak. Replace reactivity with silent presence. Instead of rushing to please, breathe, observe, and decide calmly. That alone sets you apart from most men. Then reclaim your energy. The emotional attention you give her must first nourish yourself. Start investing in something that strengthens you. Physical training, knowledge, finances, spirituality. A centered man shines from within, and that light attracts. More than flowers or sweet messages, it's that authentic glow that makes her respect and desire a man. From there, you don't beg for presence. You become the presence. Now that you understand how to break the cycle of emotional servitude, the next question is inevitable. Why does that guy, who seems to do nothing, keep winning the game without even trying? The answer is coming up, and it will change how you see the game of attraction. It's one of the greatest injustices any man can feel. Seeing that slacker, who doesn't try, doesn't chase, who even treats her poorly, win her attention and desire while you kill yourself trying. But why does this happen? The answer lies in how he plays the game, or rather how he doesn't play it. While the nice guy runs after approval and tries to control every step, the slacker simply doesn't care. He doesn't seek external validation because he knows his own worth. This attitude creates a mix of mystery, power, and challenge, three ingredients that deeply affect female psychology. Her brain interprets this lack of attachment as a sign of social value and dominance, almost automatically triggering desire. Schopenhauer warned us about the nuances of human desire. Love is the triumph of imagination over intelligence. The one who doesn't give themselves easily creates fertile ground for her imagination to fill, so desire grows. In contrast, the man who offers himself fully and predictably ends up extinguishing that fire because he leaves no room for mystery. But beware, this is not an invitation to become an asshole or disrespectful. The secret is to balance detachment with a confident and integral posture. If you want to understand how to embody this attitude without losing your essence or dignity, get ready, because the next step will reveal what to do to stop being the nice guy she trades for, the slacker. It's hard to admit, but rejection is almost never about who you truly are. It's about how you were perceived. And the bigger problem is that, many times, what she rejected was an image of weakness disguised as dedication. Schopenhauer once said, "The world is my representation," meaning that what matters is not objective reality but how it is interpreted. And in the game of attraction, her interpretation can be cruel. When you give too much, seek approval, and live for her, you are sending signals that the female mind reads as a lack of self-worth. This creates a painful paradox. The harder you try to be loved, the less you are desired. The harsh truth is that emotional strength, not submission, activates genuine interest. This perception may seem unfair, but it is real. You weren't rejected because you were bad or inadequate. You were rejected because unconsciously, she perceived there wasn't a whole and authentic man there, but someone too available, without limits, without challenge. This perception triggers emotional disconnection, which later turns into distance and replacement. But here is the key that directly connects to the next step. Recognizing that being seen as weak is a signal to act, to take control of your own life and self-esteem. Because the man who truly learns to value himself becomes unforgettable, no matter who tries to replace him. After understanding this whole dynamic, the decisive moment has arrived: how to be the man she will never trade for a slacker or anyone else. Schopenhauer reminds us that power lies in assuming your own will and acting consciously, not being carried away by others' needs. And that is exactly what differentiates the man who dominates the emotional game. Being that man doesn't mean playing games or manipulating. It means building a solid foundation of self-love, clear boundaries, and authenticity that radiates confidence. A confidence that doesn't beg for attention, but demands it because of the value you give yourself. This posture awakens respect and, more importantly, genuine desire. When you learn to balance presence and mystery, challenge and protection, emotion and rationality, you stop being just another guy on the list. You become indispensable, the safe harbor she chooses to stay in, not out of fear or convenience, but because she knows you are unique. You are the man who carries his own value and doesn't wait for it to come from others. Now it's up to you. Keep repeating the same mistakes or take the step that changes how you see yourself and position yourself in the world. If you seek direct content without masks that truly strengthens you, subscribe to the channel. Here Truth frees and prepares you to become a man who accepts nothing less than he deserves. See you in the next video.